that's me. And you might be wondering how I got here, twirling around on the streets of Paris while being filmed by a celebrity cinematographer. Well, all started in 1984 when a gentleman by the name of Mr. Tadashi and I took over his father's clothing business, and he renamed it Unique Clothing, now known as UNIQLO. And in the 1990s, my mom met my dad and they had me. I was a super cute baby, I know. And while Mr. Yanai was building his fashion empire, I started making silly little videos on the internet about clothes. By the way, if you're new here, hi, my name is Jen. I make fashion related content here on YouTube. I also post my outfits on Instagram and I make short form content about beauty, fashion, and hot takes on TikTok, so make sure you check those out. Now, somewhere along the line, I started making videos about Uniqlo. If you've seen my content before, you know that I am super critical about fashion brands and the products they put out compared to the prices they're charging. But Uniqlo has been one to always impress me because the quality of their products far exceed the prices they're charging. And about 2 years ago, Uniqlo really started establishing its roots in Canada. And they found my videos on the internet and we started working together. Fast forward to today, 2024, Uniqlo is celebrating its 40th anniversary. And they decided for this occasion they're going to host a big party in Paris. And UNIQLO Global is inviting 18 countries of marketing teams and their influencers. And I am super honored to be chosen as the one from Canada. So let's go to Paris and I'll show you everything that we got up to. And so we jetted off to Paris nice and late because I do have a 9 to 5. I work as a pharmacist at a hospital. So yes, that does mean I'm taking time off one job to go do work at another job. But this is a fun work trip. We landed around 10 a.m., which means it felt like 4 a.m. So we checked into our hotel and right away we took a big fat nap because a girl needs her beauty sleep. But by the time dinner time rolled around, we were up and ready to go and we went to have a welcome dinner at Ferdy. Now this is a super old school looking classic French restaurant, or so I thought, because the thing that they're most well known for is their cheeseburger. So of course we had to order that. And it was super hard to get a reservation here, but thankfully someone on the Uniqlo team does speak French, so they did call ahead and book a reservation for us. The next day is when things really started to pick up. Or so I thought, because we were supposed to go on a guided food tour in Le Marais, and we got up nice and early, had a little breakfast, and we walked by a Uniqlo store in the Opera District, and I didn't realize that Uniqlo was so popular in France too because there was already a huge line forming. But onwards to the food tour, we were supposed to meet our tour guide, but he ended up canceling because he didn't feel well. But we decided to make the best of it and we went to a Uniqlo store to take a tour in the Le Marais district. I've only been to Uniqlo in Canada, the US, and Japan, but the stores in Europe are so different. The one in Le Marais is in a large factory-like building, and actually this building used to be a foundry, a place where they process metals. And this place was huge. Something else I didn't realize is that each country stocks different Uniqlo items. And turns out there are representatives from each country's Uniqlo, and they meet once a year to select the items for their country. So if you're traveling abroad and you really love Uniqlo, you might just find some different unique items in the Uniqlos in different countries. Something else unique at this Uniqlo location is the Re-Uniqlo Studio. And this is a studio where you can take damaged Uniqlo items for repair. But at this location, they can upcycle different items, they can add patches or embroidery, and they do work with local artists to do this. I mean, the variety of patches and threads that was available to do this made me super jealous that we don't have this in Canada yet. They also had racks of upcycled garments that look so unique. But I'll let Pasmi show you and talk a little bit about it. Okay, we're at the Uniqlo at Le Marais and we have a lot of really cool stuff like upcycling, embroidery. This is an upcycled piece. How cool is that? Hopefully we get this in Canada soon, but these are just really cool. They also do this at the Opera location. I mean, that is just so cool. We went downstairs to check out the outerwear and they have their down jackets as well as their new puff tech. I will be making a different video talking about the technology behind puff tech, so stay tuned. Look at this handsome shopper wearing our Uniqlo down vest. Of course, I had to check out their cashmere selection. This is our cashmere wool. I honestly love it so much. I'm wearing one right now and it comes in so many different colors, tons of different colors. I'm wearing the extra large size for the And they also had Lifewear magazines that were free and available for you to take a copy of. After all that touring around, we were pretty hungry, and since our food tour was canceled, we had to improvise. So we saw a restaurant nearby called Camille, and there was a waiting list, so we figured it must be good. We went inside, had a little escargot to start. If you haven't tried these before, you have to try them if you're in France. It doesn't have much taste, really. It kind of tastes like a savory gummy, but the butter, that's what makes it really tasty. I don't think there's anything better in this world than French butter. And I ordered the classic French dish, steak frites, and my husband ordered the duck breast, and I honestly think his was better. After lunch, we decided to part ways and we went to do a little bit of shopping. The Uniqlo portion of this trip was only about 3 days, but we extended our trip to 6 days so that we could do a bit more shopping and a bit more sightseeing. And I will be making a separate video about everything we bought, everything we ate, so stay tuned for that. And on the last day, it was a jam-packed day. We got up nice and early to meet with the Uniqlo team and Mo, who is their go-to photographer and cinematographer. He was already in Paris, busy shooting celebrities during Paris Fashion Week. I was asked to prepare 3 to 4 outfits, and we were going to spend the whole morning shooting them all across Paris. And since I was the Canadian rep, of course I had to do a classic Canadian tuxedo look, and that was look number 1. If you're curious to see which items I brought to style my looks, I will link all the items down below in the description. And likely I'll make 2 different links, one for US and one for Canada. We started the day off pretty strong, but it did rain a little bit, so my hair got a bit frizzy. Thankfully, Mo had an assistant who held up a light for me so we could get good lighting everywhere. And Mo's such a fantastic guy to work with, really fun, really outgoing. He really made me feel comfortable. And I know you can't tell, but this was my first modeling experience. I feel like getting photos taken with your phone, which is what I typically do, is a much different experience than working with a professional photographer. He showed me the videos as we went along to make sure I liked what we were filming. And when we got some good shots, we moved on to the next location, which was the Louvre. For the next look, I went with something I think a cool French girl will wear in the autumn. And that includes a perfect pair of dark wash jeans, a little pointed kitten heel, and of course we're on trend, so we're doing a cardigan with the top button buttoned. To keep things nice and breathable, I'm wearing the Airzone camisole underneath, and to top it off, a brush jersey jacket. As you can imagine, there was a lot of people at the Louvre, and to be honest, I was getting a little bit nervous because people were looking and staring. So Mo gave me a really helpful tip. Take a listen.
You're showing the camera. Always think like you are flirting with the camera, flirting with the. Yeah, it's like okay. It's, I don't know how to explain, but it's like you are friendly and approachable. Exactly. Ready?
Later, my husband did tell me people stopped to take photos of me because maybe they thought I was famous. And another little behind the scenes moment is changing in public. Not in the open, of course, we had this portable changing tent. And that's what I used, changing into my next look, and we moved on to a bridge near the Eiffel Tower. And the weather was not working in our favor because it was super windy. There were a lot of people passing on the bridge as well, so we tried to be respectful of everyone's space, and we did have to wait for people to pass by sometimes. And while I was waiting, I was doing my little dancey dance. But everything worked out in the end, and the wind actually made the photos look a bit more high fashion, dare I say. You can see some of the photos we took on my Instagram. I already posted them, but the ultimate finished project of this whole thing is going to be an Instagram reel, and that's going to be posted on UNIQLO Canada's Instagram page. And me, being the silly creative genius I am, brought along prop, this huge pan of chocolate. Not to worry, it was not wasted, and it did end up in my tummy right after the shoot was done. After the shoot, we grabbed a quick lunch, and then it was time for the party. Now, I'm no stranger to UNIQLO parties, having worked with them for the past 2 years, but this was done on a scale I have never seen before. So this celebration is meant to celebrate the art and science behind UNIQLO. We started on the lower floor, the science part, and as soon as you walked in, you were met with this huge display. And this is meant to show the nanotech behind UNIQLO's fibers. And you can see along the wall at each column, there's an interactive display. I'll walk you through a few. This display is showing the science behind heat tech, explaining that heat tech fabric is made from 4 fibers. Each of the 4 fibers work together in their signature heat tech fabric to keep you warm. You can pause to read. And there are also some fabric swatches so you can feel the difference between regular heat tech, extra warm, and ultra warm. There was also a graphic explaining the history of heat tech, as well as a sneak preview of what to come for heat tech. And that's a cashmere blend heat tech. And on this display, they reveal some of the challenges behind forming this new heat tech cashmere fabric. explaining that they build specific machinery and also use AI technology for the end product. I'm a bit of a nerd about these things, and I really love it when companies are transparent about their problems, as well as their processes. Lastly, they built this cool interactive tunnel where you can walk through, it'll detect your body heat and light up. Next, we walk through this cloud-like display for Puff Tech. As someone who's been reviewing quilted jackets and winter jackets for the last few years, Puff Tech comes in so many different quilt patterns I have never seen before. And how it works is that it's synthetic fill designed to trap air between the fibers, therefore keeping the cold air out and the warm air in. And this is the exact same mechanism of down because the feather structure is what traps pockets of air, except when down gets wet, it no longer retains this property. But Puff Tech will, so this is great for outdoor sports. Now, when I first started reviewing clothes, I thought fiber content was the end all be all. But the more I learned, the more I realized that the fiber content is only one part of the story, and these displays prove it. So many factors go into the end product of a fabric, not just the fiber content, because with the same material, you can make yarns of different shapes that have different properties. And then you can use different weaves to turn these yarns into fabric. So for example, UNIQLO made a hollow fiber that's meant to absorb water in its core, and that's what's going to give you the sweat wicking and fast drying properties. And on this display, they're explaining how they can make their activewear fabric smooth yet also stretchy. I really enjoy these interactive exhibits. There was even one where you can drop water on a jacket to test how waterproof it is. As you guys have seen from my clothing reviews, I like to touch and feel fabrics. So this exhibit was spot on for me. I really loved how interactive it was, and I got to learn a lot too. And I also feel like because I know the product better, I can make better reviews for you guys. Now let's go upstairs, and that's where the party is. On the upstairs portion, there were rooms and walls of UNIQLO clothing and displays. But just look how beautiful and aesthetic everything looks. Apparently they have been planning for this event ever since before COVID, and I think it turned out beautifully. Each room was more beautiful than the next, and it was so cool to see all the UNIQLO collections together. For example, the UNIQLO C, UNIQLO U, UNIQLO with J.W. Anderson, and whoever styled these mannequins, a big round of applause. These outfits look so luxe and so high-end. I'm a firm believer that you don't need flashy items to make a good outfit. Layering and styling good quality basics is ultimately what's going to take you far. And I think it's safe to say that UNIQLO is the master at that. It was definitely a cool experience to mingle and chat with UNIQLO teams from 18 different countries and their influencers. Not gonna lie, there were moments that I feel really small in the room. Because not to mention, this was also a star-studded event. Now, I didn't see her with my own eyes, but apparently Anna Wintour was present, as well as Roger Federer, who was UNIQLO's global ambassador, and of course UNIQLO U's designer Christophe Lemaire, as well as UNIQLO C's Claire Keller. And yes, Mr. Yanai was in attendance as well. I think in general it was very cool and also a humbling experience to see so many people from across the world gather in one place because of their love for UNIQLO. After a long night of mingling and chatting, we went out for dinner at a restaurant called Chez Savvy. And of course, for apps, we had to order escargot again. And this place was a 10 out of 10. They speak English, the food was delicious. After this, I spent one more day in Paris, and I left feeling inspired and grateful. This trip was definitely one for the books and one I will cherish for a long time. I can't wait to share more of my learnings with you, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.